Live, local, your Fox 29 Morning News starts now.
All right, you may want to grab a pencil and jot some of this down for this next segment here. Some big bucks could be coming your way if you're a struggling homeowner.
And this is all part of a settlement among 5 major banks involving a robo-signing controversy. Fox 29's John Favole joins us with more. John.
All right, ladies. I think a lot of folks have their baseball mitts ready, and they're ready to catch some of those big bucks you're talking about. You may remember back in February when federal investigators wrapped up a 16-month investigation into bank robo-signing. They found 5 major banks failed to properly follow laws required to foreclose on people's homes. As a result, those banks are now paying big bucks, $26 billion to be exact. But what does it really mean to Floridians? And more specifically, how do you know if you'll be getting money or other benefits from any of this? Well, here to explain more is Fox 29 Common Sense lawyer Shari Olefson. And Shari's an author, attorney, and director of the Carnegie Group think tank. And as always, thank you for being here. And
it's a pleasure,
we
John.
look forward to the explanation because it can get complicated. Let's start first with a little more background on what this ruling means and what it means here for our state.
Well, and that's important because a lot of folks are reporting this as if it's the golden ticket in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and people are just checking their mail and hoping that they have that. But there's a difference between eligibility and qualifying. And these letters that are going out only mean that you're eligible. Now, to be eligible and to be put in that pool, a few things have to have happened on the bank end. First and foremost, the banks look at what's called the net present value. And that's what they've been doing with these modifications and short sales all along. So they're going to do the math calculations and make sure that it makes more sense mathematically for them to give you a principal reduction than to foreclose. After that, they're going to check with the investors who own your loans because the investors have to consent. Also, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and FHA are not included in this. And last but not least, you have to be at least 60 days late as of January 31st, 2012 to qualify for this and underwater. So if you're in that eligibility pool, then you may get a letter. Now, if you do get a letter, they're going to look to see, and you're going to have to prove this, that you're at least, your payments are more than 25% of your income, but if they reduced your payment to that 25% level, you would be able to afford them. You have to fully document that as well. So it's not as easy as some people think. You have to be eligible to get a letter in the first place, and then you have to qualify to be able to actually get in the program. If you do qualify, though, they'll reduce your loan value to 100% of the value of the property, and that means possibly writing down as much as $150,000 worth of principal. If you still can't afford your payments after that, then they may reduce your interest rate, too.
Florida's getting a good piece of the pie, though, but it's still not enough. I mean, we're getting the second most amount of money right behind California.
Yes. Well, we actually got $8.6 billion, $8.4 billion, and about $7.6 billion of it is being applied for the principal reduction.
Right.
But here's the thing. Even if you don't qualify for this, there are other banks and there are going to be other programs. So the other banks participating are Wells Fargo, Citi, JP Morgan Chase, and Ally. If you have one of those, along with one of those banks, and at this point, John, everyone who needs a foreclosure alternative should know who their bank is and who their servicer is. But if you have along with one of those other banks, you may qualify for one of the other programs, and there will be 4 other programs here in Florida, including a refinance.
Good to know.
Yes, and a modification.
All right, so, okay, you're on the list. Now what happens next?
Well, here's the thing, and let's look at the big picture here in Florida, because this is $7.6 billion of principal reductions we're going to be having, but the problem is that we have about 2 million homeowners here who are underwater to a tune of $120 billion. So $7.6 billion sounds like a lot of money. It's not in the big picture.
Close, yeah.
No, unfortunately. And 35% of these principal reductions actually redefault again. If property values keep going down, as we think they might, some of the folks who get these reductions may default. The other thing is, this money doesn't just grow on trees. It's kind of like with the Japanese tsunami and all that garbage floating through the ocean.
Right.
When you have a loss, it kind of floats around, and this is going to end up in people's pension funds and places that we may not really be imagining.
Wow, still a long way to go, but at least it sounds like a start.
We're chipping away at it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here.
Sure.
We'll talk again next week.
Sure.
All right, let's go back over to the anchor desk.
All right, some great advice as always. Thank you both. Time now for a check on our forecast.